So what I have is an essay by Heather Cox Richardson. She's now a fairly famous historian. Teaches at Boston University, I believe. She's, believe this or not, got the most successful Substack newsletter. She makes more money on Substack than pretty much anyone else on Substack. Her Substack is called Letters. Let's see, Letters by an American. Hold on one sec. I guess I should know this. It's Letters from an American. And unfortunately, I subscribed to the newsletter, but the actual title escaped me um, momentarily. But anyway, she basically talks about Trump's basically going, well, Trump essentially creating a constitutional crisis. Several things. The executive order concerning the 14th Amendment, you know, abolishing uh, cabinet level agencies, um, several other things that are already starting. Some of these executive orders are already starting to be challenged in court. I imagine a lot of them will be, um, at a minimum, stayed, enjoined or injuncted. I can't remember the exact term, but basically, there's several issues um, that have been challenged, and judges have already, suspended whatever the executive order was trying to do. Federal workers, that federal worker layoff that seems to be in the works, that's been stopped. USAID, I believe that's been um, suspended. I guess pending, actual judgment. So one observation that I made today, because someone said that, oh, hey, Trump is really out there making things happen. And my response to that is Trump is good at theater. He's doing, there's a flurry of activity, but he's really not making headway on most of those executive orders, with the exception of immigration. Immigration is something that the executive branch actually does control. They can deport, all those agencies, ICE, um, and the other agencies, Homeland Security. That's all within the president's bailiwick as far as how he wants to handle deportations and that sort of thing. But some of the other things, 14th Amendment, firing federal workers, suspending money that's already been appropriated by Congress. Uh, Presidents, by the Constitution, Article 2, does not allow the president to delay or suspend or freeze money that Congress has allocated. Um, he doesn't seem well. I actually kind of admire Trump for challenging that, but I just don't know how he's going to be able to accomplish it without either outright ignoring courts who rule against him, which is something that was kind of floated today. Um, Trump and his henchmen are hinting that, hey, you know what? Courts may rule one way, but we don't have to obey the court's ruling. And I forget who it was. I think it was Andrew Jackson. Had way back in the day had a judgment. The Supreme Court ruled against something that he wanted to do, and his response was, "Well, let them enforce it." So he basically just ignored what the court ruled, and he went about his merry way. And Andrew Jackson is one of Trump's you know, heroes, I guess. So looks like Trump is going to go that route. Who knows what's going to happen? But I do know that a lot of people, I'll cover it either on the show or in another video. A lot of Republicans are starting to realize that, oh, hey, you know, this isn't going quite the way that I thought it was going to go. So, like I said, I want to concentrate on the Constitution part because I'm always talking about the Constitution. And Trump is definitely kind of going rogue here. So, what I'm going to do is play the have the AI reader read part of Professor Richardson's Substack essay, and then I've got a New York Times article that kind of supplements. So here we go.
February 9th, 2025. By Heather Cox Richardson. On Friday, President Donald Trump issued an executive order protecting Second Amendment rights. The order calls for Attorney General Pam Bondi to examine all gun regulations in the U.S. to make sure they don't infringe on any citizen's right to bear arms. The executive order says that the Second Amendment is foundational to maintaining all other rights held by Americans. In fact, it is the right to vote for the lawmakers who make up our government that is foundational to maintaining all other rights held by Americans. The United States Constitution that establishes the framework for our democratic government sets out how the American people will write the laws that govern us. We elect members to a Congress, which consists of the House of Representatives and the Senate. That Congress of our representatives holds all legislative powers. That is, Congress alone has the right to make laws. It alone has the power to levy taxes on the American people, borrow money, regulate commerce, coin money, declare war, to make all laws which shall be necessary and proper. After Congress writes, debates, and passes a measure, the Constitution establishes that it goes to the President, who is also elected through electors by the people. The President can either sign a measure into law or veto it, returning it to Congress, where members can either repass it over his veto or rewrite it. But once a law is on the books, the President must enforce it. The men who framed the Constitution wrote that the President shall take care that the laws be faithfully executed. When President Richard Nixon tried to alter laws passed by Congress by withholding the funding Congress had appropriated to put them into effect, Congress shut that down quickly, passing a law explicitly making such impoundment illegal. Since the Supreme Court's 1803 Marbury v. Madison decision, the federal courts have taken on the duty of judicial review, the process of determining whether a law falls within the rules of the Constitution. Right now, the Republicans hold control of the House of Representatives, the Senate, the Presidency, and the Supreme Court. They have the power to change any laws they want to change according to the formula Americans have used since 1789, when the Constitution went into effect.
Okay, this next article is a New York Times article written by Adam Liptak. He is a Supreme Court reporter for the New York Times, and he may also do justice reporting, basically on the lower courts. But essentially, the premise of his article, and it's more or less an opinion piece, is that Trump's first 18 days has pretty much created a constitutional crisis. And, that may sound a little over dramatic, but there's a professor who recently wrote a book, Chemerinsky, I think is his name. Hopefully I'm pronouncing it correctly. But he's a constitutional scholar with a recent book that I haven't read. But he explains the whole constitutional crisis terminology. So we'll go ahead and have the browser's AI reader read this article. There doesn't seem to be one that's embedded in the New York Times article itself. So here we go.
Trump's actions have created a constitutional crisis, scholars say. Law professors have long debated what the term means. But now many have concluded that the nation faces a reckoning as President Trump tests the boundaries of executive power. There is no universally accepted definition of a constitutional crisis, but legal scholars agree about some of its characteristics. It is generally the product of presidential defiance of laws and judicial rulings. It is not binary, it is a slope, not a switch. It can be cumulative, and once one starts, it can get much worse. It can also be obvious, said Erwin Chemerinsky, Dean of the Law School at the University of California, Berkeley. We are in the midst of a constitutional crisis right now, he said on Friday. There have been so many unconstitutional and illegal actions in the first 18 days of the Trump presidency. We never have seen anything like this. He ticked off examples of what he called President Trump's lawless conduct, revoking birthright citizenship, freezing federal spending, shutting down an agency, removing leaders of other agencies, firing government employees subject to civil service protections and threatening to deport people based on their political views. That is a partial list, Professor Chemerinsky said, and it grows by the day. Systematic unconstitutional and illegal acts create a constitutional crisis, he said. The distinctive feature of the current situation, several legal scholars said, is its chaotic flood of activity that collectively amounts to a radically new conception of presidential power. But the volume and speed of those actions may overwhelm and thus thwart sober and measured judicial consideration. It will take some time, though perhaps only weeks, for a challenge to one of Mr. Trump's actions to reach the Supreme Court. So far he has not openly flouted lower court rulings temporarily halting some of his initiatives, and it remains to be seen whether he would defy a ruling against him by the justices. It's an open question whether the administration will be as contemptuous of courts as it has been of Congress and the professor.
Okay, so you all pretty much get my drift here. And actually, since I've been recording this, there have been a couple other news items that have on the same topic of court actions, and I see that Eric Adams has been pardoned. I'm sorry, the charges. The Justice Department has dropped the charges against Eric Adams. Rod Blagojevich, from way back in the day, got convicted. He was a former Illinois governor. Uh, got convicted of selling the Senate seat that Barack Obama vacated when he won the presidency. So Trump just pardoned him, gave him a full pardon. So, Trump is, he's a flurry of activity. Um, and I will talk more about this because, essentially what is happening is a lot of the Project 2025 stuff. Um, Trump is pretty much, he pretty much told us what he was going to try and do. He tried to be coy about it, but essentially what he's doing is trying to make the president the prime driver of the U.S. government. And that's all well and good, but what they don't understand is that, this is going to work both sides of the street. And just, if a Republican do it, a Democrat can do it. Now, what I'm thinking is they're going to do what they can to basically neuter the Democratic Party. But I don't think, I'm not so sure that what's happening now is actually going to fly even with his base. Venezuelans who had TPS, temporary protected status, that's been revoked. Uh, Two or three Hispanic members of Congress down in Florida have already, kind of gone, have already done a news conference or something saying, hey, what are you doing? Um, I've already seen one or two articles where, essentially saying that uh, some Hispanic voters got duped. They were under the impression that certain segments of the Hispanic population were gonna keep their temporary protected status, and that's gone. So you're gonna start seeing little pieces of the MAGA base starting to peel off, because there's almost no way what Trump is doing isn't going to affect his base at some point. So anyway, enough of that rant. Any other things that I think of to cover on this particular topic, I'll run through on the show. Uh, Please make sure that you like this video, and if you're new to my channel, please make sure you subscribe to it. What I cover is mostly culture and politics, and other stuff comes around because culture and politics cover a lot. So the show is Stanley versus the World on the Urban Landlord channel. John Galt, the Urban Landlord. That's kind of like the mothership, and my channel is more or less just for stuff that I want to cover. Kind of side projects, special interests, that sort of thing. So in any case, thank you all very much, and I'll see you on the Stanley versus the World show.